Well, Graham, I don't know if this is controversy or not, but should we read anything into the fact that the first cabinet meeting is going to be in Calgary? And I've already heard speculation that this means that there's going to be a ton of Edmontonians in Rachel Notley's first cabinet, and she needs to do something to make sure Calgary doesn't feel forgotten. Is that likely?
Well, we'll see what happens on Sunday with who's actually in cabinet. No, I think it's smart to do it in Calgary because the NDP is really seen as an Edmontonian type, or we're based in Edmonton, or the party's based in Edmonton. That's the impression people have because the incumbents are all from Edmonton who won re-election. I think it's smart to reach out to Calgary and just say, look, we're down here as well because the Premier is from Edmonton. It's important that Calgary gets a chip on its shoulder really quickly over these things and starts to dissect whatever announcements come from the government, even under the PC government. If something came for Edmonton, Calgary wants the equal.
Right.
So of course, Edmontonians are never like that.
Never, no. We're above that kind of thing. But Calgary...
We don't get twitchy-eyed, never.
No. Because Calgary is going to watch this very carefully, I think it's a smart move politically to go down there and say, here we are, we're not scary. In fact, a lot of people in Calgary voted for the NDP, even though a lot of them won because of vote splitting. Between the PCs and the Wild Rose. It's important for Notley and the cabinet to be seen in Calgary.
Well, and the other interesting thing is, so she's having 2 cabinet meetings back to back in Calgary, and then she's talked about talking with Albertans in Calgary to hear from them. I think what she's trying to do is really give an indication that, as Graham said, the party isn't one just based in Edmonton, and that it's going to do a lot to make sure that it does listen to people in Calgary. And I think perhaps that vote splitting might have something to do with it, them realizing that they didn't sweep Calgary quite in the same way that they swept Edmonton, right? That the support there was quite divided across the parties, as opposed to here where we saw NDP candidates, many of whom were virtually unknowns, win by huge margins with like 60 and 70% of the vote.
Right.
Yeah, the other thing about talking to Calgarians is that's also code for talking to the oil patch.
Right.
And Rachel Notley has been spending a lot of time massaging people in the oil patch, trying to convince them that the sky is not falling and that she's not Hugo Chavez, and that they shouldn't be packing and fleeing for the Saskatchewan or Montana borders. So yes, they'll be speaking to Calgarians of the sort that Joe Ceci represents, but also that's speaking to the corporate community in Calgary to settle nerves.
Right.